the show. And welcome back, me. I'm Jason. Oh, we're the partners of Solarian Games. I'm Jason.
I'm Peter.
And we have a special guest this week. Hello,
Hi,
Colm.
I'm Colm, guys. I'm the
All right.
director of the Museum of Games in Ireland, and it's currently 1 a.m. here, but I'm still alive.
And that's all my fault. I don't understand time zones at all. I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's only a couple hours. No, it's like 5 hours. So
Sure.
we're really grateful.
Only a small pond.
All right. Stories this week. Gygax Memorial hits its funding goal. Yeah, we did that. That was all us.
It was all us.
I was
We had Paul
so
on.
tempted.
That was it.
I was kind of looking at I was so tempted. I was looking at, my God, it'd be great to get the museum's name in a brick there. And then I was kind of going, yeah, but like, how much money have I spent on the last week?
Right.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, adds up.
Let's see. 1977 D&D Holmes Bach figures. Something we're going to say about them. Tariffs strike again. Oh my God, the story again. Drive-through RPG is selling real offset printing, not just the crappy drive. Oh, what do you know?
I knew you would like that one.
I love that. Beacon Island Kickstarter, and super important, the Golden Fez Awards nominations are open. So we will be talking a lot about that. Maybe we should even talk about that at the beginning. And then our guest of honor tonight, of course, is Colm to talk about the Museum of Games Ireland, which I'm representing here as well. And that's going to be our big discussion tonight. So anybody in the chat, if you want to know what that is or have questions, throw them at us. Let's start off with the Golden Fez. How about that?
All right. Well, hold on. Let me get to that.
I'm messing with your order, but I want to make sure that people are on top of this one. Okay. Brian in the chat says that my volume is low.
I turned it up.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to shout. You don't
need to shout. I turned it up. You should be good. Brian, let us know.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us if it's not. All right. So this is going to be the second annual Golden Fez James Carpio Memorial Awards. So as most people know, our third partner in Solarian Games, James Carpio, sadly passed away a little over a year ago. And in his honor, as anybody who knew James knew, one of the things he's most well known for was his Fez. And so we've named the awards the Golden Fez in his honor. The first annual Golden Fez was, I guess we couldn't call it the first annual at the time because you can't do that. That's cheating. But the first ones were held last year. And if you go to goldenfez.com, you can see all the winners. We'll talk about them a little bit. But what I want to get out right off the bat is nominations are open right now. So we have got a number of categories. And the big winner last year, the Game of the Year award, was Outgunned, which we still love. Yeah. Have you played that yet, Colm?
I haven't. No, I've seen it played though. I've kind of observed it. It looks a lot of fun.
Very cinematic. Some of the other awards we have included the Holy Hand Grenade Award for the best new game mechanic, the Pick Up and Play Award for the easiest game to learn. That was won by Eat the Reich. Last year, the Holy Hand Grenade was won by Burn 2D6, local Connecticut game here. The Velvet Smooth Award for Best Design and Production was Triangle Agency. The Forge of Destiny Award for the Best World Building was won by Ultraviolet Grasslands 2E. Last year, the Hack the Planet Award for the Most Unexpected Idea was won by Microscope. And finally, the last award from last year was the Bucket of Blood Award for the Best Combat Rules. And that was won by Kill Him Faster, appropriately.
They are the coolest names for awards I've ever heard in the gaming.
Thank you.
They are fantastic.
That was our plan. We were like, we're not doing what every other award show did or has done. And one of the other facets of that is there's no guarantee that those names will stick. We can change them. It may not even be the same awards this year. So
sure.
Well, so far we're sticking with them.
So far. I'm just saying there's no guarantee.
We're just going to stick with them because time is short. We don't want to. Yeah. We might change them up for 2027, but the awards are going to be held at TotalCon, and that's in Boston on February 20. Well, it's for several days, but we're going to be holding them on Saturday night at February 21st. And so anybody who either has a game that you've created, or if you want to nominate somebody else's game, go to goldenfez.com and you'll see a submission form in the main menu at the top. Just click on that. All you have to do is put in your name, the name of the game, who publishes it. Please give us your email address so that we can get in touch. And you can say which category you recommend the game be considered for. We may look at it and say it belongs in a different one, but it helps us to know. And unlike award shows like the Ennies, where they make you send physical copies to, oh my gosh, what, 8 people?
Yeah.
Something like that? All the judges? We don't do that. A PDF is fine. You're welcome to send us physical copies. It will not make the game more likely to win unless there's something in there that you just really think we need to see physically. Like, please look at this; it's super cool.
Right.
But generally, we can look at photos. We get it, and do that by December 31st because the judging is going to happen in January and the awards are going to be given in February. So, I don't know. That's pretty good, right?
That's it.
Absolutely, sounds great.
Yeah. It's a good time. And we do, we do, and I made arrangements to make this smoother. We'll see how it goes, but it should be better. We do stream it live. Last year, the live stream didn't go so well, but I got a better Wi-Fi we can connect into and everything. So I think we should be good this year.
Yeah. Should be good. I don't know, Colm, have you been to the Ennies Awards or any other?
Yeah,
like
I went to Gen Con about 9 years ago now for Green Ronin, where we're publishing a game I had created called Love to Hate, which is out of print now, and the expansion's out of print as well. It's kind of
that's you. You're the writer.
Yeah, I'm the designer for that game. Yeah. And I play tested it for years before it kind of went out there, and I kind of sent it over to a few people saying, "Hey, what do you think of this?" Looking for feedback, and Chris and Green Ronin said, "Yeah, we'll take it." I said, "No, I'm not pitching it, dude. I just want to know, like, what do you think?" That no, we'll take it. Saying, okay, that's great. So what we don't, what do you want? What do you think you should have in the contract? And I'm going, I have no idea. So I kind of rang around some friends, going, what do I put in the contract, guys? But yeah, so it's kind of it's a sentence finishing game. Game
cool.
for so it's kind of, I love the way you get like a noun like clowns or teachers or whatever, and I love the way or I hate the way, and then everyone's got a. I have to say it was designed kind of before I was aware of Cards Against Humanity, but obviously that's kind of it's kind of but I spent a lot of time making sure it wasn't kind of triggering or kind of offensive in the way that Cards Against Humanity can sometimes be to some people, so it kind of coasts that line where families can play it.
I have a couple of friends who, when Cards Against Humanity first came out, their children were 6 and 8 respectively, and they decided to play it with the kids. It was an interesting night.
I'd say
it was a lot more embarrassing for me than them, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, but this does kind of coast the line, at inappropriate, but not. Some of the, but yeah, so that's my first time Gen Con. I've been back 3 times since. I kind of went every alternate year kind of thing. 4 times actually. Just hanging around and being a punter and kind of meeting some people and having imposter syndrome and getting some writing contracts for RPGs, going, how the hell did that happen? And being around people who I kind of used to, well, I still admire, but I used to kind of admire from afar, going, oh, you're that guy whose game books I have at home, and now I'm here having a chat with you. One of the nicest moments was spending some time with Joe Deaver, who obviously passed away a few years ago. The Lone Wolf, the Adventure of the Lone Wolf, kind of, he was there launching the RPG version of the game books a few years back. And I'd interviewed them the previous year on a radio show I had at the Gamescom. So it was lovely to actually meet him and spend some time with them before he passed away. That was a really kind of nice time,
Yeah, that's the thing about conventions. It's just, it's this microcosm where you suddenly feel like more part of a community than any other part of the year.
Yeah.
You're part of a community all year round, but when you're at the conventions, it's just this special moment. And of course, the last day, you always are just like, how do I keep this feeling going for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
The way to do it is just go to more and more conventions.
Absolutely. But it's a small industry as well. So once you kind of start knowing people, as long as you're not a a-hole, I'm not sure whether you can curse in this thing.
You can curse.
You can curse if you want.
Okay, as long as you're not a dickhead, people are kind of, accessible and kind of nice and kind of welcome you in for the most part, which is really, I don't think you get that in many industries, really.
Yeah.
But sadly, I'm not going back to the States for the next, let's say, the next couple of years, because I've got a strange surname. and
Right.
dot,
I hear
dot.
you. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing. I moved here to the East Coast from California, and the East Coast is a much more tightly packed area. The conventions are more tightly packed. The community is more tightly packed. And I didn't realize how much I'd missed that, because being out in California, you just don't get that same sort of feeling. And here, each convention you go to, you see the same cast of characters. You see the usual suspects. You get your con friends,
Yeah.
hanging out there. And
Yeah.
it seemed the same sort of way. Anybody who's watching knows I was off last week because I was over at GaleCon, and my first convention in Ireland. But I got the impression that it was the same sort of thing, like a tight knit scene, that you're gonna see the same people from con to con.
For sure. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, it's one thing. Ireland is kind of a strange, like, you have a lot of people obviously living in outside Dublin, outside urban populated areas, like in rural areas where there's no kind of convention scene, or there's no kind of point at which gamers can gather. Like Killarney, where I live, down Kerry in the southwest, was like that for a number of years. But then the game store opened, and suddenly there were 40 to 60 gamers in the store in a weekend going, oh, where the hell were you guys for the last 10 years when I moved down here? Like, you know what I mean? But, so there's pockets of gamers around there who aren't affiliated or aren't kind of attending conventions. They don't have that kind of single point of group attendance. But, and the challenge, I think, for any convention is trying to reach out to those people and bring them in. But you're right. The con scene is kind of, it's very much a tight knit family with all the joys and foibles that come with that kind of arrangement,
And one of the things that's kind of wild is that there's this new convention that started. It's only, I think this is the third year, to Page, which is in Philadelphia, which is
Philadelphia Area Gaming Convention, or
it's
Expo.
Gotcha.
That's
Yes.
what the E stands for.
It's about an hour north of me, so it's finally a convention in my backyard.
Sure.
Because I travel to most of mine. But then if I go up to up to Total Con or Rising Phoenix, which is two other conventions we attend every year, those are about 6-hour drive for me. But it's still a lot of the same people, like and Jason, when you came down to Baltimore, again, we still ran into a bunch of the same people. So yeah. It's like this East Coast, Northeast Coast family.
Well, we'll put this to the test, because I'm going to be coming back for Leprechaun in March.
Cool.
And going to be dragging Peter along if I can make it happen.
If we can make it happen, I'll come.
So
there's another one between that. There's a con in January, at the end of January, called WarpCon in Cork. Cork's a beautiful city, and I've discovered, I mean, there's some amazing foodie places in Cork. So it's the end of January in Cork, ECC. I think John Catholic is the guest of honor this year.
I don't think I can swing that one.
Yeah, you
close.
can.
It's too close.
It's only down the road.
Adventure.
Say again?
Isn't there Adventure Con?
Yeah. So there's a lot of kind of I don't want to call them smaller cons, but a lot of kind of new cons that have popped up in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So a lot of kind of which is great to see. It's great to see local game stubs kind of getting involved, and we've had a phenomenon here where a lot of games cafes have opened.
Mm-hmm.
So people have a center point, and from them conventions, like I've had people kind of come to me saying, hey, I want to organize a convention, what do I do? Of course, the first response is don't, or even nuts. But if you're determined, here you go. So it's nice to see them kind of popping up. There's a lot of them now, I think, which is
great. We're going to be doing our first one in May, at the end of May, but luckily we're doing it with the folks from Total Con, so they can teach us what to do. But I thought it was Adventure Con. What's the name of the city or town that it's in?
Athlone, I think.
There you go. That's why it's called that.
Yeah.
But I think it was them. I heard a bunch of good ideas coming from people, and oh shoot, there's ones that I was just like, we need to steal these ideas, and I've forgotten what all of them were now. But
worst thief ever.
Yeah, but
right.
It was a really good pub quiz at this one, and Peter. So we have a game that's not been released yet by Solarian that Peter runs at different conventions, which used to be called Cube of Death and is now called Tis But a Scratch, which is sort of a pub quiz, but by answering the questions, you get to kill monsters in a dungeon crawl.
Oh, cool.
So we'll be running some of that stuff.
It's an RPG, and your encounters, all of your encounters, are not solved with dice; they're solved with answering trivia questions.
That's really cool. I'm going to correct myself. Adventure Con, I was thinking of a different con. Adventure Con is based in Loughrea in Galway. So it's kind of
now the name makes no sense at all.
Well, I mean, I guess it might be close to Athenry, or maybe they're from Athenry.
No.
Maybe that's where the Athcon, but it's in Loughrea. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, Galway's stunning. Galway's anywhere on the
Yeah,
west
it's
coast really
famous.
is amazing.
Galway's famous for being
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
And it's a great city. It's a great city.
Well, that'll be
All right.
on my list. All right, I'm hogging all the time for
Yep.
Golden Fez. So I'm just going to remind people again, please, goldenfez.com, so easy to remember. Go there, nominate your favorite game, nominate your own game, give us some nominations. We want to find the best for the year.
Yep. All right.
Oh, and sorry, Chet in the chat. It says, May, which con is this? At the end of May, we're going to be doing a one-day convention in Northampton called ModCon. We haven't really started pushing it yet, but you can go to modcon.games and register to run some games. And Chet, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
What do we got? What's next?
Guy Gax Memorial hits its funding goal.
Oh, heck yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So first of all, when did you get that screenshot? That's a big number.
That's it. That's the final number.
Oh, that's the
Right.
final.
I grabbed it tonight.
So we're worried about this one.
Mhm.
Colin, how much do you know about the background on this one?
Not a huge amount. I saw the Kickstarter and kind of went into it. I've met Luke a few times, but this is the first time. And I have to say, I was tempted to just get one of the museum bricks, but my credit card is currently in exile or in fear or hiding somewhere after the museum expenses, so it didn't happen. But in terms of the real politic around it and kind of the where the idea came from, I'm not up to speed on that.
Oh, well, first of all, there definitely will be an opportunity to get a brick in still, because this
Yeah.
is sort of the start of a journey. Although in some ways we're at the midpoint of a journey. I don't know where we are in the journey, but so Luke is not involved with this
Right.
particular venture. This goes all the way back to 2009. The whole idea began right after Gary passed, and it was originally spearheaded by Gary's second wife and
Right.
widow, and it had a lot of controversy around it because she was given help by Wizards of the Coast. They put out a special set of, well, you know about it. They did a special set of first edition books specifically to help this. And
Okay, that's what I knew. It was for something. I didn't actually know what it was for.
yeah, and people were keeping tabs on the money. They were watching the funds go up and up and up and getting up to close to $250,000. And they said, great, where's the memorial? And for years there was nothing, and there was poor communication, and so that leads to conspiracy theories and people saying that she'd stolen all the money and ran off to Tahiti or who knows what, right? Or used it all to sue me or whatever it was. I still don't know who paid for her legal bills, but I know I paid. But that's another story. But eventually the truth all came out because Paul Stormberg, who is a longtime fixture in the community and the industry, who has been known for helping a lot of the folks from the first wave liquidate their estates and really kind of get their pensions, so to speak, for all the work that they had done, stepped in and took over to get this thing run by adults. And he gave us the background, which was, first of all, that the Wizards of the Coast money was minuscule. All they did was give a 10% royalty on profits, which only came out to about $18,000. So almost nothing, which honestly was less than Gary would have gotten as royalties if he'd been alive.
Right.
Anyway, apparently most of the money came from one large donor who put in something like $175,000 and then took it away again when they felt that it wasn't going to succeed. And so they ended up basically back at zero. And they said, how are we going to move with this? Paul came in, came up with a way better idea for what the memorial would be. Years of their work paid off in finding a place to do it. And now they've actually raised enough money to do the first stage. So this Kickstarter had multiple stages. The first stage was just getting the marble or whatever it is, bench put in place. And they're going to need more money if they want to actually put the statue of Gary on a throne and the map and everything else.
Yeah,
but this is where they needed to get the ball rolling.
Right. This pays for your concrete slab, the table, and the chairs. Like even the metal top, that's not paid for yet. So that's going to be some secondary or tertiary fundraising type thing that they're going to have to do if they want all that stuff. the bottom line is they don't really need everything. So they've got
Mm.
what they're going to, they got the minimal thing. But I tend to think that once you get the ball rolling on something like this, things start to fall into place.
It gets
once,
momentum.
Once you start, once you get momentum, somebody will jump in and throw in, some nerd, one of us
Maybe
nerds
the person with 175,000 will come back.
Maybe so.
That's what I'm saying. Like one of us nerds who made it and became very rich or whatever will go, oh, here you go. I'll write you a check. Now that they see that it's serious. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. The memorial itself is a great idea. Like, and the what it is, what they've chosen for it is fantastic. I think
it's amazing for people to actually sit down and play with Gary.
Absolutely, what a great idea.
It's like any venture, when you're starting a new venture, nobody wants to know you.
Yeah,
and then when you start showing some success, everybody was there all along.
Of course.
So, yeah, I agree with you, Peter. I think they're going to see, they're going to have a lot more success fundraising for the rest of it.
Right.
I don't know if they're ever going to make it all the way to having the brass map on the top. That's a huge stretch. They're getting close to $1 million to get there. But who knows? Honestly, I think Hasbro should just kick down. Come on, guys.
Yeah, Hasbro should jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really should. They really, if they wanted really a powerful connection with their community, that would be. I mean, like they've made a lot of missteps over the years. That doing this would be like the opposite of that. Yeah. This would be a step up. People
go
start
a long
to
way
forget about
the rift. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Peter Atkinson's not in charge over Wizards anymore, because if he was, I mean, he always had a huge affinity for the community and the history, and he did so much for the creators when he took over.
He did.
So if he was still telling Wizards and Hasbro where to send their money, I'm sure they would. But good for him that he's gotten out of that whole thing. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So anyways, congratulations, Paul. Congratulations to the whole community. At least we're on our way to getting a memorial that all of us deserve.
Yeah.
Agreed. You're here. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, this next one's pretty quick. I'll run this one. I just saw this and I thought, man, I got to talk about this one. So there's this company called Serious Metal Miniatures. And they have made or are making, they're about to release these. These are actual metal miniatures. You guys were talking about this before the show, talking about metal miniatures. Now, they're not lead, of course, for obvious reasons, but they do have that solid metal feel. And they are
get my delicious snacks.
They are the figures from the front of the box, from the top of the David Sutherland's art from the Holmes box set. And you can see him here. I got him up. If you're watching this, you can see him. If you're listening on the podcast, just trust me. They look great.
So good.
Yeah,
they are. They really do.
Perfect.
They really, because here's the thing is that Sutherland's art is not classically brilliant, right? He's not somebody who's got amazing technical skill at like an Elmore level. What he's got is soul.
Yeah.
And miniatures, it's very hard to capture that kind of a nuance in miniatures. And whoever's the sculptor here has done it.
Yeah, they did it. They got it. Look at the dragon's head. It's
absolutely
it's perfect.
It's almost perfect. Yeah. He's a gamer who draws rather than an artist who doing something for a game book.
Yes,
I've got that feel. But no, they are fantastic minis.
So here's I'm
gonna go get my Wormy miniatures to show.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. So these are, it's $50 for the set, and like I said, it's coming soon. They're not quite ready. They're listed on the site, but you can't order them just yet.
It's a good price point.
What I like, this next line is my favorite line of the whole thing. It's the first release, so there's going to be more. So I'm assuming they're, I want to see the whatever it is, that demon holding the bowl and the guy climbing up with his head trying to pop the eye out.
That's the tramp.
Look at the detail in the wizard's cloak, though. I mean, you get all the stars and the crescents and all that kind of thing in the cloak.
Yeah, look at that.
Amazing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then
I'm going to bring up in the sense of this. So
hold on, let me maximize you.
That's okay. So in the tradition of great artists getting their stuff turned into miniatures, here's some of the Wormy miniatures that were recently done. So we have all of the characters
That is
Here.
cool.
And even the imp.
Hey, Jason, did you paint those?
No, my
Oh,
God.
I was
wasn't
gonna
about
say
to
good
say.
job. I was gonna say
Yeah, I
good
was about
job,
to
man.
ask. Yeah,
I could pretend I did. Well, I paid for them to be painted.
yeah. You're involved in the process. You're involved in the process.
Yeah, it's like it's like the joke about, well, never mind.
Right.
I don't know how far from PG-13 I want to go.
Right.
Anyway, but I do have another set that are unpainted, which I might get to sometime. But my point is, it's so exciting when the great art gets turned into minis. There was another miniature company that did Elmore's, bunch of Elmore's paintings. I don't remember who did those, but it would be fun to start collecting all of these.
Yeah.
Make a great
Yeah,
display for
absolutely,
anybody who's
Yeah.
collecting their first edition stuff. It'd be a beautiful way to have a display.
And it does, one last note, it does come in premium collector's packaging suitable for display.
There you go.
That's cool.
I don't know about anybody else here, but I find display worthy packaging to be oppressive. I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to throw it out because it's so
Right.
nice, but I'm not going to stick boxes on my shelves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Minis take up less space.
Yeah, exactly.
All
But,
right.
this would be. We'll talk about the museum soon, but this would be a cool addition to a display.
For sure,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And I'm really happy that they went metal as well, kind of harkening back to the olden days.
Yeah,
Totally
they,
metal.
a lot of
Yeah,
thought went into this. I love it.
Absolutely.
Is it really so bad to have lead miniatures? I mean, lead's only dangerous if you ingest it.
Yeah, it's not. It's over. You know what it is. You know what it is. It's that fear mongering that people like when we were growing up in the 80s, right? Go outside and play. See you later. Don't show up until the lights come on, right? When nowadays everybody's like, there'll be a handrail and then a sign, handrail at a cliff wall and a sign saying, "Do not climb over the rail." Like, really? Like, I mean,
well, I mean, I've just been getting back into more repairing a lot of my vintage computers, so I have to get a lot of soldering done, and so the lead solder works better,
yeah.
so I use it, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I join a bunch of communities online of people that are doing the soldering, and the first question every newbie has is, "Am I going to die because of lead?"
I mean, eventually, yeah. At some point in time, sure, but
eventually, they're just don't eat the solder. Don't eat the miniatures. Don't eat the miniatures. That's all.
But somebody's going to try, right?
Yeah.
Just to prove a point.
Here's but my point is okay, that's fine. Please,
natural selection.
Naturally, right. Go ahead, eat away.
There's too many people as it is.
This world's a little crowded as it is. God damn it.
Yeah, there's a housing crisis. Eat some lead.
Right. Anyway,
so that's
the quote for today. There's a housing crisis. Eat some lead.
Right.
Let's move on.
So the next story. Here we go again. Terrorists. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So Magpie Games has they've canceled their Kickstarter campaign. So they had a Kickstarter campaign. They had these 3 games as part of their Kickstarter campaign. As they got into it, they realized with the situations that are going on that there's no way they could continue to make the game with where the Kickstarter was. So they canceled it. They were at about $50,000 and it still wasn't, they figured they weren't going to get to where they needed to be. So they stated that, let's see, okay, so I already said that. Anyways, it was for card-based deluxe box format, required specialized printing and production capabilities of overseas factories, particularly in China. And we've talked about that on this show before, that the print quality is just not here in the United States because of things that have happened.
We don't have the equipment. We don't have the machinery. We don't have the people that are trained to use it.
We don't have the right people that are, we don't have people properly trained to use those things. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole thing. Hopefully we'll get that back at some point, but it isn't now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So they said
Colm,
that
this is something you don't have to live with.
No, you don't have to deal with this.
I mean, it does affect us though, insofar as as a games designer. Like, I mean, I've seen games companies kind of really struggling.
Because if you want to sell here,
right? Yeah, absolutely. It's the same. It's and our industries are getting affected. Look, it's a global impact. But the games industry, exists on such a narrow margin. That this really puts people who are already under pressure, under serious kind of strain, you know, and it's sad to see the impact.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So I look forward to the day that we all forget what this word means.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Let's keep moving.
Yeah. So okay, that's really all there is to say about that. They just had to cancel it because the tariffs was just too much.
Let's go to something really positive, like Drive-Through RPG.
Yeah, this is cool. All right, so this
Look
is
at
really
that!
cool.
Oh, that picture! It makes me so happy.
I
I
picked
love
that
this.
picture out, but anyway.
I love that you did this. I mean, I'm too young to have been part of the real print era. You know, when there were everything was done by hand, and you were doing paste up, and you went and did all of that. I got into print right at the tail end. You know, so I was old enough to have gone to a service bureau and had to get the films made to make the plates. I'm old enough to have gone on press checks. I remember the smell of the machinery, and the whole thing. It just makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Physical objects being made with real presses and real quality, and with the era of print on demand, it's just so much slop gets put out because anybody can put something out.
Yeah.
And the quality of the paper is not as good. The quality of the printing is not as good. The binding is not as good, but it's fine because at least people can get their stuff out there. But this makes me happy. I don't even, what made them decide to do this?
Let's see. Hold on. I believe I'm pretty sure it was because of what's going on in the world.
Well, they said
stuff.
here that it's the tariffs, right?
Yeah.
That but I guess they're finding some sort of better printer to work with. I don't know, because to do offset printing, you have to do a pretty big run.
Yeah.
For the size of what this industry is, because the thing is that it isn't worth spinning the presses. The first couple hundred or maybe even 500 copies fly off the press before you can barely even get it turned on, right? You're doing thousands at a time to make it worthwhile. So if you only need 100, there's just no point in doing this.
Right. Well, they did. So there were some concerns. So they were like, let's see. The program is currently in its infancy. Initial feedback noted rudimentary methods for order communication, such as, all right, so their ordering is going to be an issue, right? Because they haven't figured all that out. That's a whole, you've built websites, Jason, with where people interact with the website. So that's going to be a learning curve. There's an inventory issue. A major concern is the current inability to track inventory through their systems. So much like we have our warehouse where we can track our inventory, and you and I know that that's not exactly 100% either. It gets a little tricky at times. Just imagine doing this with all these
big guys. It gets tricky. So we sell through Amazon as well as through our own site, and we recently shipped several hundred box sets off to Amazon, and then they just sort of lost like 300 of them. They just disappeared. I mean, thankfully they paid us for them, so it was actually great. We're like, please lose more of our games.
Lose the whole freaking shipment. It's fine.
They don't get out then. They don't get out there.
They didn't pay us that much. They paid us pennies on the dollar. But the point is, it's hard to keep track of this stuff. And Drive-Through RPG has never in the history of their company had to think about inventory. So this will be a new one for them. So, and it's ironic that in here it says Roll20, which owns the marketplace. It's ironic that now Roll20, which is a company that's based on making sure that you don't sit at a table with your friends, instead that you go and you spend all your time fiddling around with menus and not having any fun. Roll20 is the ones that made enough money to be able to make this happen. So good job, Roll20.
Yeah, nice to see that kind of the synergy. It's interesting when you're talking about the printing. My family is a printing family, so I've seen hot metal printers in use from members of my family and that kind of stuff back in the day. We have a national print museum here actually in Dublin, which is a beautiful thing because they have all the old machines that you can actually use, you can actually print with.
Oh, that's on my list. That's on my list.
It's a pretty special place, especially for anyone who's had any background in printing. Like they have a replica of the Gutenberg press, and they have all the presses from 1900s right through to to the mid 20th century, 21st century. You know, it's a very, very cool place.
My favorite
The smell of
instructor in
ink.
college, who kind of got me into a lot of the print stuff, now lives in Paris and runs a print shop that specializes in using just the old equipment. And that
Awesome.
sort of thing. It's
There's
really
something
cool.
special about something printed on one of those machines, though. There's something kind of the tactile nature of it, the kind of the blood's gone into it.
Yeah.
It literally
know.
sometimes does.
Yeah,
That's-
absolutely. Yeah.
Chet says 25 years of printing from sweeping floors and loading paper, then running sheet fed and gross web.
Gosweb.
Gosweb. Yeah. Pre-press and project management made me so much better as an artist and helping clients with design issues.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love the first thing he said was sheet fed Heidelberg. I'm like, I don't know what you mean. Oh yeah, I mean, we didn't usually run on the we usually would run on a web press, but the sheet feds are very cool. And then Scott Congable says print shops have a distinct smell.
They do.
Yes, they do.
They absolutely
There are two
do.
smells in this world that I love the most: the smell of diesel fuel and the smell of a print shop.
Oh,
Do
you like diesel
they're
fuel?
They're not dissimilar.
No, they're not dissimilar.
They're not
No.
dissimilar. Yeah.
Or any diesel fuel, oil, gas. I don't know. There's something about all of that.
Wait, smelling it. Do you have to? Are you okay with working in that? Because anytime that I've had to do that at work, where I've had to work, because we work around vehicles and stuff, and there's a lot of exhaust, and the diesel they use is called JP8, which is a military type fuel. Man, it gives me a headache. It makes me sick.
Well, you're smelling the exhaust. It smells better going in than it does
kind of the fuel around. You can still smell that diesel fuel. It gives me, it kind of messes with me a little bit.
I don't know. The exhaust, not so much. It's a nostalgic smell to me because it reminds me of high school and fixing up cars and all that sort of thing.
I feel like we've come back to the natural selection conversation. Huffing exhausts and eating lead miniatures.
How am I still here?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's educational, folks.
Hey, you know what? And back in our day when we were young, the lead and the exhaust, all the same thing, really. You could suck that lead right in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Beautiful. It's like when you see those stories on the TV of a 110-year-old granny and they're asking, how did you get so old? She's like, well, I smoke 2 packs a day and it keeps me upright.
Yep. Absolutely. And whiskey in there too. Yep.
Yeah.
For the vitamins.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's go. We'll do one last one. We'll do a last quick one. This is a friend of ours, Peter Saloom, has a Kickstarter going on right now. I just wanted to give him a mention just because, I've talked with him a bunch of times. We'll see him at Total Con. He's just a nice guy. It's called Beacon Island. It's a Savage Worlds adventure. He doesn't do his own systems. He generally does stuff for other people, kind of like Ian McGarty, who was on last week. But it's Beacon Island is a character-driven investigation, Savage Worlds adventure, and mini setting where the secrets of the unknown confront the unbridled curiosity of youth. So you're basically playing kids, teenagers kids on bikes. It's kids on bikes.
We love some kids on bikes. We got to get them to run this at ModCon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But most especially, which was interesting to me, and I guess it's because Peter's, he's a little bit younger. It's set in the 90s, like where you and I, if we're doing
the ancient, far back, long ago years.
The late 20th century, yeah.
Yeah, the late 1900s.
Yeah, late 1900s.
It's set in the late 1900s. Oh, I hate that phrase.
Oh, that's grim.
Not good, right?
That's grim.
That is grim.
The previous millennia. Anyway, so the Kickstarter's going on right now. So just look this up. It's Beacon Island, and Peter Saloom. It's Pear Street Studios. He does good stuff. I have 2 of his other books that he did, and they're very good. So
it looks great. Set on a remote New England island, rich with secrets.
Yeah,
right? We love a remote New England island around here.
Yep. So,
yes, we do.
So check it out. All right. That is it for our news items. I guess now we go to.
All right. So I'll do a little bit of an intro, and we'll start asking you some stuff. So, as I said, this year, I decided to go to GaleCon rather than going to. I don't even remember which convention here. I skipped for it, but I found out that now that I live on the East Coast, it's very short hop over to Ireland, and I'm like, I got to go to this convention. I want to, meet new people, meet new games, everything else. And they said, here's our guest of honor this year at Colm Lundberg. And I was like, okay, who's that? And I get there, and there you are. And it turns out that one of the big things that you do, in addition to many others, is the Museum of Games Ireland. Turns out we actually knew some of the same people
Yep.
because
Yep,
of the
yep.
stuff that you're doing here. So I was very excited to get you to come on the show and talk about not just the museum, but also some of the other stuff you do. So give us just kind of the quick the elevator bio of all the
Sure.
different stuff you've done and what the museum is.
Okay, so I'm a writer, games designer. I write a lot of stuff for Ghost Press. I've written for Pathfinder. I've designed the game Love to Hate. I've got a couple of other games coming out soon. I've done stuff for Green Running's Fantasy Age as well. So I've got a kind of a bit of a mixed bag. Writing, I suppose, is my passion, and that's kind of where a lot of it comes from. I worked with Steve Jackson Games previously, as controlling his as control is what they call it, the head of the volunteer brigade. So I've been in the industry kind of peripherally or bits and pieces for the last long while. last
No
I guess
numbers.
well over 20 years anyway. And I've been on the Irish gaming scene as a convention organizer for about as long. And the museum, I appear to have set up a museum by mistake, is what I tell people. So it started off, as I said, I live in Killarney, been here for the last 18 years. And about 3 years ago, Rob opened the games, 2 years ago, actually, a game store called the Guildhall. And he had that space there. I mean, that's a photograph at the very early stages of the museum. Yeah, he had that space there that he couldn't put anything in. And I said, hey, I've got some vintage games. I'll put up a display. It might be a point of interest. People might, like it. Rob said, oh, that's a cool idea. I love that. So threw up some games from my own collection. And we started jokingly referring to it as the museum. So I was talking to Steve Jackson one night, and in American Steve Jackson,
Right, that's
not the
Steve
UK.
Jackson.
Yeah, not
Right.
the UK Steve Jackson, although American Steve Jackson did write some of the fighting fantasy books just to confuse people.
Make it worse.
Yeah, and he said, oh, that's a great idea. Wonderful. I'll send you over my archive. Okay. Yeah, so this archive was water damage in a flood. So I said, will you be able to, what do you want to do? And it said, well, look, I've always wanted to have a space where the focus is preservation, conservation, and digitization, not a play museum, but something like that. So these about 8 crates came over anyway, and I'm picking out handwritten pencil notes for a game called Bolo from 1974 that became Ogre. Original maps and scripts for the fighting fantasy books he wrote, correspondence with Games Workshop, the Fantasy Trip original script, the original kind of monster sketches for the Fantasy Trip, copies of Melee, in their infancy, and all these kind of pencil notes, which became various products from Steve Jackson from the early days, from the time of metagaming before Steve Jackson Games, right into SJG. And I was kind of going, well, I better take this seriously now, I guess. I better, this is real stuff. So I spent a lot of time kind of focusing on preserving them. My previous job, and I worked for the government, previous job was dealing with cultural museums with them who deal with specialized kind of teams or specialized or regional museums. So I had access to conservators. So when the stuff came over water damage, I kind of got on to them and go, what do I do with this? And they gave me great guidance. So I could actually separate the pages. I could preserve it all.
Did you say that you actually had to get it wet again?
Yeah, so it came over wet. And
right?
Yeah, well, so I got onto the wonderful person in the Chester Beatty Library, which is a fantastic collection. I mean, they have papyrus from 3000 BC, so I kind of figured they know what they're talking about, I guess. If you can conserve paper that old, they probably have a good idea. But yeah, so the paper was kind of stuck together. So they said, get it wet, basically, leave it in a room with steam, or gently put it to water. And I'm going, that sounds counterintuitive, but you do this for a living, I don't. And yeah, so you get them wet, they separate easier then, and then you dry them again.
Mhm.
And it was just like, it worked really, really well. Of the 600 or so, 800 or so documents that Steve sent over, 800 pages or whatever it was, I was able to separate all but one of them. So I had a wonderful moment at the UK Expo last year where I kind of had a fob and I said, there you go, Steve, there's all your records digitized professionally. So that was a wonderful moment to be able to do that.
What was his reaction?
Anyone who knows Steve Jackson knows that Steve doesn't necessarily react.
Right. I've met him one time, so
he's a lovely guy when you get to know, but he's quite a kind of a shy kind of he kind of one of these still waters run deep guy. But no, he kind of said, he's been very supportive. He said, look, that's amazing, thank you very much. But he's been very supportive. He keeps kind of saying, hey, I found this, I'm going to send it over. Hey, I found something else, from the 1950s, I'll send that over. He's been very supportive, and he's been very good at promoting the museum on his website. But once that kind of kicked in, it became this thing that there's clearly a demand for. I mean, there's the board game museum in England run by Tony, lovely guy, amazing
I don't
place.
know that museum.
It's in kind of a beautiful kind of a national park, so it's a lovely kind of
Where is
setting
it?
as well. That's a damn good question, and I think I should know, but it is 2:00 in the morning here. My brain's not working. But if you
That's all
Google
right.
Board Game of England, which Museum England, I can't remember the name of the park, but yeah. So there's the Strong Museum of Play, obviously, you
Right.
know, and there is there's another museum. It's in Kent, Newett, Newett, Newet in
it's in
Gloucestershire.
Kent?
Is the
Oh.
museum of board games. There you go. And there's pockets of museums around the place, but I'm not aware of any other museum that exists which is trying to capture the modern tabletop gaming hobby. By which I mean, really the hobby that started in kind of the mid 60s, when board
Yeah.
games started to become more kind of tactical, more kind of simulation type, war games and that kind of thing. You could really take it back, the modern hobby, I suppose, back to Little Wars or H.G. Wells if you wanted to do that. But it's not necessarily looking at like stuff like Senate or Go or or the evolution of chess. It's not kind of going there yet anyway.
Remind me to ask you about that Little Wars again. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But so it became this thing, and suddenly donations started coming in, and people started going, "That's a really great idea. That's fantastic." And the more kind of, and it's only been open by a year, but the more the year kind of went by, the more I kind of went, okay, what's my philosophy here? What's my goal here? And I realized very quickly on that it was about preservation. It was about conservation. It's that kind of philosophy of planting the seeds of a tree under whose shade you'll never sit. It's about kind of preserving this for future generations. There are museums out there where you can play these games. There are places where you can go, and that's fine, and that's cool, and I totally respect that.
And there's
But
a lot
from
of,
my
I mean, there's a lot
perspective,
of private individuals that are, building great collections of those, but that's
yeah,
very different from the actual museum level preservation approach to,
yeah,
especially a lot of the ephemera, a lot of
yeah,
the
yeah,
unique
yeah, yeah.
bits like what you have in Steve Jackson's collection.
Absolutely, and I mean, I got a lovely donation, Gail, kind of 2 games from the World Fair in 1904, and all these kind of
Wow.
things. I mean, the thing, the hobby's old enough now that you can still get access to these kind of things. You can still get access. You can get access to Talisman First Edition. You can get access to D&D First Edition. You can get a white box set. You'll pay for it, but you can get these things. These things are going. I mean, I remember I was talking to Ian Livingston at the expo about this. We had a good conversation about it with Jonathan Green, and the three of us were talking. And Steve said, "Oh yeah, I got a white box set in the shrink that Gary gave me."
Yes.
And talk about your provenance. That's pretty cool. But I was also thinking, in another 5, 6, 10 years, there's not going to be anyone that can say that line.
Right.
Or there may not be anyone that can actually say that line. It's something that Gary Gygax handed me, and we've lost, so many people over the last 4 or 5 years. Really, it's phenomenal. And COVID played a part in that, but also it's just the kind of, we're all getting older.
Yeah.
So another 10 years, you might not be able to get this kind of stuff. But it just
Yeah,
kind
I
of,
mean the original people, some hang on, some are gone, but now we're, as you say, we're even at the stage where the next generation, those of us and maybe a little bit older than us who came after them, who understand and appreciate how important this is, are also fading. And so how do we keep on passing on that interest?
absolutely.
I participate in other hobbies that are sort of similar. So you can see behind me here, I have some of my little computer museum.
Looking at those,
It's the same sort of thing. There's a lot of these where right now people, they spend huge amounts of money on what they consider to be rare and important things, but you also hear about somebody who's like, oh yeah, he died and his family threw everything out because there was a load of old junk.
Right.
They don't appreciate and understand. So it's more than just preserving the items, but it's preserving the story. So
100%, absolutely. And these are cultural artifacts. As gaming kind of grows exponentially and becomes more and more mainstream, these are even of more importance to culture. And it's funny you should say that, because I think that was the emotional trigger in my head a couple of years ago when I mentioned Joe Deaver. When he passed away, his family sold his stuff as part of the estate. So they're selling off his miniatures, they're selling off his notes, and I'm kind of going, I remember thinking that needs to get preserved. That's a story there. That's a self-contained part of the foundation of the modern hobby. And obviously they're entitled to do that. They have the full, that they have the right to do that. But I was just thinking that that's a part of the hobby that if you could just get all that and hold it. That's kind of one of the 5 or 6 foundation blocks of what we enjoy today. And to be able to kind of capture and hold that. So I think that was kind of the emotional kind of foundation stone on which the notion was built, and then it just kind of evolved into what it is now, which is a museum, and it's still kind of modest, it's still small, it's still me,
Well, you're doing it
operating
the
the whole
right
thing.
way. You're
But
not
yeah,
biting off more than you can chew on day one.
no, I mean, you got to start these things slow if they're going to evolve properly, but you got to do it properly. And most of the money I've sank into it has been for museum quality preservation, for museum quality digitization. You can see some archive boxes, and maybe if I can, that's sort of there behind my painting station. They're proper. They've got copies of things in them, but they're proper archival boxes. There's loads of kind of everything's acid free, all the kind of proper stuff, which obviously costs money, but
it really does. I mean, that's the thing, is the acquisition is just one piece of it all.
Yeah.
The actual preservation and display and everything else matters a lot. And the thing about it is that games, I think, more than most other disciplines or whatever, they're a reflection of our culture too. Because of course there's the things where we can say, well, Dungeons and Dragons is a touchstone because everybody played it, and if you watch certain TV shows, you'll see people playing it, and you want to make sure that you're kind of reflecting the society around it. But they are also a reflection of what matters to people and how people see the rest of the world. So for example, there's been such controversy and debate about how D&D should even be played, right? How do people play it in the year 2025? Somebody who was born in the year 2010, how are they playing it, right? And certain people who are around from the 70s, they might get angry about it. They're like, well, you're not playing it the way I played it. Well, it's a different generation and it's a different set of values. The people who were playing in 1974 were raised on pulp and good versus evil, black and white, very big obvious things. The people who are playing it in 2025 and who are 15 years old were raised on a totally different set of values. And looking at those games tells you a lot about the world that they were in. You have to be able to preserve not just the game, but the kind of things that you have, the ephemera, the background, to show what's going on here, what's going on behind those games.
But the games themselves tell a story as well. I mean, you look at the kind of the little chit heavy games, the war simulations of the 1970s and the 1980s. You look at the artwork that was in early D&D and early GURPS and early kind of, and it's very heavily kind of male oriented. And you look at the evolution of even Munchkin, for example. Like there's a second edition coming out where they've kind of where John Kovalic, the artist who did the logo for the museum, for which I'm very grateful. Yeah, there we go. And he's annoyingly proud of the logo. I have to annoyingly proud of the logo.
It's a great logo. John,
it is. No, he's deserving.
He's a great guy. It's a great logo.
He absolutely
loves cats. It's good.
And MOGI is obviously cat. Is a known phrase for a cat in Ireland.
Right.
So that's where
obviously, you say obviously. We're talking to an American audience.
Well, to me it's obvious.
I'm only on my second week of Duolingo for Irish right now. Okay, so
right, you'll get there. But even the products themselves tell I got a wonderful donation of a game called Tank Attack, which is like the only computerized game. In 1977, the only computerized game in the world, and the computer is literally a circuit of a random light generator with 6 bulbs that kind of tells you what combat action you're going to do. So the games themselves tell a story as well. The evolution of the games into the kind of the high production quality, the high kind of miniature quality that we have now. Games like Blue Rose, which is kind of very much centered around it's not centered around, but it's elements of polyamory, elements kind of like open gender fluid kind of characters and all that kind of thing. So the games themselves are artifacts of a certain point in time and a reflection of reality. I think
there's your culture and your games reflecting each other.
Absolutely.
Brian in the chat says we're all Americans. Brian, you're Canadian.
I think that's
draw a distinction.
I think that's Derek Boyle, who's a friend of mine from Ireland, who's also far too late.
Thank you, Derek, for staying up late.
Thank you.
And indeed, a donor to the museum. He gave me a copy of the original Dune, and it's interesting because I had a copy of the original Dune as well.
Nice.
Yeah, and
there's my Irish for the Dia Dwitch.
There you go, Dia Dwitch. Yeah, but there's an interesting story about and this is part of the whole kind of thing. So there's the Dune first edition printed in the same factory, printed in the same kind of
Yeah.
printing press.
Yeah.
Back then, they used to print the insert brown box separately, so they'd loads of those brown boxes. If
Uh-huh.
you open most of those kind of bookshelf games from the 1980s, there'll be the same brown box on the inside. So they printed the
Oh.
cover. But the first print run, the cover was brown on the side. Then
Mhm.
they ran out of that, either the ink or the card. I'm not really sure. So the
Yeah.
second print from the same machine in the same week is orange.
Hmm.
So it's
Which
got,
is
a part of the story, but it's also kind of capturing the weird and the unusual, like the strange dice. Or I think I said it to you, Jason, about the game Break Key, which I think was released in
I
Gen Con.
don't remember if we did
It
talk
was
about
released in
that.
Gen Con 2002, and the object of the game is the two players link these two plastic keys, twist them, one of them breaks. Oh, you gave me Kingmaker, Derek. Sorry, you gave me Kingmaker Second Edition unpunched. Unpunched.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. But yeah, so one of the keys breaks, and game was over.
Yeah.
Not a lot of replayability in that one.
No.
Yeah. What do they call that? A legacy game?
Yeah, a broken key game.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
there's another game which
That's
has
a
the
pretty
second.
brilliant marketing strategy. Oh, do you want to play again? You can buy another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's another game called which is in the second edition now, called Flip Coin.
No.
Yeah. The second edition is Flip Coin Monster because the coin has a monster on it. But yeah, so
Oh my God.
so it's kind of it's things like that, the quirky things like that, which I love kind of finding again, which kind of tells another story about the hobby as well. You know what I mean? But it's not just the old and the kind of the old story. It's where the hobby is now as well, and the interesting things around the kind of periphery of it.
But you're going outside. You're not just limiting yourself to RPGs. So I
No,
know you
no.
recently got a 1904 copy of Pit.
Yeah, 1904 copy of Pit and Quit by the Parker brothers from the World Fair. But yeah, no, the object is, and I've miniatures, all the old Games Workshop miniatures, the idea, and a lot of I got an acquisition of about 6,000 Magic cards, which I seeded individually. Which people said, you're nuts doing that. Like, why don't you just say a pile of Magic cards? And kind of going, because back in 1993 when we were all playing this, like Black Lotus and Shivan Dragon didn't mean anything to us.
Yeah.
They were nice cards. They were kind of useful cards, but like, I mean, hey, if I lost, like, whatever, so who knows where these cards are going to go? So you need to kind of preserve them individually, which I'm just finished doing, by the way, after about 6 months. But you have a couple of hours a day. But those are the kind of things. So it's card games, it's tabletop, RPGs, it's board games, and it's miniature games and war games. You kind of lead heavy into the Games Workshop or the Alternative Armies or the Debilis Antiquitatis, which I think was a UK and Ireland phenomenon. I'm not sure if that made it across the water. It's kind of historical.
Don't know that one.
It's historical kind of mostly historical. They do fantasy as well, but mostly historical miniature war game based on lead miniatures back from the 1970s. DBA was going, and there's some serious hardcore players still around who just play DBA. So it's kind of trying to capture the full gamut of what we do, and also the periphery of those, like the artifacts of those, like con badges, dice, strange dice, all that kind of thing. So I think it's probably the only museum that I'm aware of certainly doing that. It's an ambitious goal, but nothing ever started by doing nothing. So you start small, and you kind of as you say, you do it right, and you just see where it goes.
Well, and I want to thank you for giving me the recommendation to stop by the Little Museum of Dublin before I left, and the reason is because I didn't know what to expect. I want to thank you also for not telling me anything about it before I got there.
Good.
It's the same when somebody recommends a book or a film to me. I say, please don't tell me. Just tell me it's good. Let me discover it. And so I'm going to ruin it for people by saying something about it. But it's just a house. It's not a big house, and it's not a big museum, but they've managed to tell a story through individual objects that were donated by people in a fascinating way. And it opened my eyes to how a museum doesn't need to be a huge, sprawling megaplex where you're going through the Smithsonian and you're seeing everything on a moving sidewalk or something to get from place to place. What a museum needs to be is a well curated collection that tells a story. And it opened my eyes to how you can do an incredible museum in a relatively small amount of space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that made me think about the efforts that you're undertaking at this point.
And I have the advantage. I mean, my job in the government and the cultural scene was looking after, as I said, specialized museums. So I've had exposure to that in a way that has shown me that museums can be living things. They don't have to
Mhm.
be static. I mean, there's obviously importance in preserving the national collection, but there's a vibrancy in some of the smaller museums that, in the smaller space that you don't have the luxury of doing in the larger museums, that you can kind of inject real story, inject real kind of energy into these artifacts. So, I mean, I've opened the cabinets when I'm there countless times. There's a wonderful moment where a dad came by and he said, "Oh my God, I played that game about 40 years ago," and this kid said, what's that game about?" So he started telling his kid about the game, and I was there. That they're the moments, that I want to kind of bring out into people, make it a lived experience or a recalled experience, and then passing that experience on, because games are experiential. You
Yeah.
experience a game. It's not a passive hobby. It's not a kind of passive engagement. So seeing that engagement come to light through nostalgia and then being passed on to the next generation is what it's all about, but making it a living connection.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I really want to get you together with Paul Stormberg,
Right.
because so he does at GaryCon every year. He does the uh, Legends of Wargaming is what he calls it, but it's not just wargaming; it's all
Yeah.
kinds of things. And like we talked about, what's exciting is seeing the kids come into it. So
Right.
he's one of the things that he sets up is a huge Little Wars game with soldiers and the proper Britain's cannons and everything
Mhm.
else. And some kid who's got no idea, who doesn't know anything about the history of it, certainly doesn't know who H.G. Wells was, doesn't
Right.
know any of that, just wants to play the game because it's that fun.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
here's a game. I don't know, what year did H.G.
Oh
Wells
wow,
write it?
that's a good question. Eight,
I,
but I don't know. I don't know.
was it
I've had I have
before
I
the
had
First
I've
World
had a
War?
copy. I've had a copy in my hands. I used to run charity auctions in Ireland, and somebody donated to a charity auction. I know who has it, and the copy has some annotation in it, some notes
Ooh.
added into it. So it was a really kind of special thing. I don't even want to think how much money it went for. I can't recall, but
Oh,
it.
by the way, did you get a hold of John? Did you write back to him?
I don't recall him. Did he write to me? I don't recall him
Oh,
writing.
okay. I'll bug you about it right here on the show.
Yeah, no,
So
sorry.
so
I made a contact with the person who has it.
Yeah. So
And
people who are in the chat, a lot of them know John Peterson, who wrote Playing at the World and a lot of other things, probably the preeminent historian of the gaming thing. And so being able to tell, and I don't know if John's watching tonight or not. If you are, say hi in the chat. But being able to tell John something that he doesn't already know
mm,
is it's like finding a gold bar, right? It's just like
I, I
it's such a big deal. I'm like, so I texted John right away and I said, John, do you know about these notes that somebody found in a copy of Little Wars? And he's
mhm,
like, I don't.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I all of a sudden I got this glow. I'm like, I get to tell John a new thing.
No,
So
I did make contact. I did email him back, and I found the person who has the book, and they're going to kind of scan in the
okay,
notes for me.
there's a we've got a group email going. So just
Cool,
if you didn't get it, check it and I'll send it to you again.
cool.
But that's
1913, by
exciting
the
because
way, 1913 was the Little Wars
19.
when
So
when it was published. It was written a couple of
I
years
had
before
this
that.
idea that it would have been after World War II because World War One because I thought it was because I know Little Wars. H.G. Wells thought it would help people not want to fight wars,
Yeah, yeah.
and I thought anything that makes people anytime somebody's upset about war, it's often right after the Great War because that was the thing that the world
That
had
was a
never
bad one.
seen
Yeah.
anything that terrible before. So I
Yeah.
just assumed it was after that, but yeah.
Just a year before. I think he wrote it. I think a couple of years before that, but a year before. I mean, he says in the intro of the book that he was basically playing these rules with his kids for a few years, and he just kind of decided to formalize them and write them down in a book. But it's a nice thing to have at least pass through your hands.
Yeah, I mean
Wow.
that's the thing about it. Like we say with the cultural impact is when you play Little Wars, it's a fun game and it's
Mm,
interesting from a history of how games evolved out of it. But it's also really interesting to look at because you have to think, what was it like to live in 1913? What did war mean
mm.
to you? You know, one of the
Even the
things that I
class,
wanted, yeah,
even from a class perspective, because you had to be relatively well off to afford these toys. You know, back in what was still late Victorian England, you know, the poverty gap was notable, and in order to have the luxury of having toy soldiers and having a toy fort and being able to have a room on your kitchen floor, you're sitting on the
Even
floor,
the
you're lying on the floor,
space, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
to
just the
play
space to
these
even
games.
play the game. Yeah.
I mean,
You know,
yeah,
it's
you could go out in the garden to play it, but I mean, most people didn't have a garden. What I learned in the going to the little museum of Dublin, and they showed the street, and they said, how many people do you think lived on this block that should house about 80 people? And it turned out to be 800 people that
yeah.
lived on the
Oh,
block.
There was my family were Protestants when they came over from Sweden, but they married into Catholics and very much got cut off for the money. So there's a tenement. So the tenements were what the slums in Dublin were called.
Yeah.
And when they went through the paperwork in the tenement museum, they found out that my family, the Lundberg family, there was 11 of them living in one room in
Oh.
in
Wow.
this, and that's what that was quite common back then. But if you walk into it's a nice thing in some ways. If you walk into the tenement museum, you'll see my family listed.
Oh, wow.
Because that was the house, just pure coincidence. That was the
Yeah.
house that they lived in, became the museum in 11 Henrietta Street, and
Hmm.
my family, the Lundberg family, are listed there. All 11 kids and 2 parents, but people, 12, 13 people living in one room was the order of the tenement life, you know, and that would have been around that time.
Yeah. So to
So
play a game like Little Wars, you're not middle class, you're upper
no,
class.
absolutely,
I
and
mean,
it's
I don't know how
interesting to
much middle
see.
class existed in 1913, but
Well,
you're
yeah,
certainly upper class.
but
People
and it's
play it.
interesting to see kind of, you know, from a class perspective, the evolution of the hobby as well, because let's face it, the hobby ain't cheap. You know, if you're going down,
No,
if you're getting
it's
war
not.
games, if you're going down the miniature games, and you know, my background is very much, you know, we didn't have money growing up. You know, I like most people our age, I was kind of working in the local hotel around 13, 14, you know, and that money, you know, was translated into fighting fantasy books, one fighting fantasy
Yeah.
book every 2 weeks, kind of thing, you know, and that was my start into the hobby. But you know, there were plenty of people around me who didn't have access to that. You know, so it's interesting how the hobby evolved, and you know, as I said, it's not an expensive, it's not a cheap hobby. The whole joke, like, you know, oh, he's really rich, he takes 6 figures home, you know, and they're talking about Games Workshop figures, but
Yeah.
you know, but it's a legitimate reflection of wealth. If somebody can afford every box set every week, like
Look,
No.
that's a
I'll tell
reflection.
you, I never got into Warhammer. I loved Warhammer, and I would play with my friends, but they always loaned me the pieces.
Right.
I could not. I couldn't afford to get into the hobby. Like, I liked playing it; it was great,
Mm.
but I could not be one of the guys who showed up with a
Same.
zillion figures that, you know, $10,000 in
Well, even
figures.
after you get the figures, you have to spend the
Right.
money in the paints, and they have to
Right.
have the time to do
Absolutely,
the painting
absolutely,
and the
yeah, and the
everything
scenery and all the kind
else.
of.
Yeah.
There's right up my shelf there. There is something that I bought relatively recently that I opened the White Dwarf magazine when I was about, I don't know, 14, and there was the Baneblade tank. I thought, oh,
Ah,
that's a vehicle. So about 2 weeks ago, I went out and bought one. So
Nice.
it's a personal evolution of where I came from and where I came through as well. But I think that's reflected with a lot of people. You know,
Mhm.
yes.
they had this hobby, and that was the great thing about role playing games is you know, and this is the interesting dichotomy between parts of the hobby. Like, to be a Magic the Gathering collector, you need to be rich. Let's face it. You know, to be an RPG person, you need someone to have the books.
Mm-hmm.
But you can come
Yeah.
along with a sheet of paper and a pencil and borrow some
Yes.
dice, and you can engage in that interaction as fully as anyone who's spent $300 or $400 on the collection of books, you know. So it is in some ways a leveler in the way that other parts of the hobby aren't, and I think that's creates an interesting kind of blend of people across the hobby, you know.
So
Yeah, and
because if you
nobody's ever managed to sit down and actually do the numbers on this because I don't think you could. But
Mm,
in the mid 1970s, most people who were playing Dungeons and Dragons, at least anecdotally, they were playing it with a Xeroxed copy.
Mhm.
yeah,
You know?
or Jason, you would have one person who would have the books. Like,
right.
even if it was your whole group pitched
Yeah,
in,
that was the way it was. I mean, you know, growing up in
that's
Iowa,
it.
where we were all our first jobs were detasseling corn and also cleaning hotel rooms and things like
Hmm.
that. No, you of your friend group, you would pool your money to get the books.
Yeah.
Right.
And the best part is that while there were adventures and modules and stuff that you could buy, you didn't need to at all. I mean,
No.
we played so many, uncountable number of hours they weren't modules. We did play modules, but the vast
Oh, no, I mean,
majority
a
of ours
huge
was
amount of the
just
fun
like
was
the DM making
making
stuff up.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's that level of kind of open engagement that, and let's face it, like being a nerd in the late 70s and early 80s, it was a lot different than the way the hobby is now. I mean, we weren't the athletic people typically. We were the people who read books and who were bullied and who were, ostracized because we weren't sporty, because we didn't do the things that you're supposed to do. We didn't go out to whatever it was, disco, whatever it was, at 16, 17. So when you put those kind of two things together, you're kind of isolated in some ways by class, and then you're isolated in some ways by whatever societal
Social
strata
barriers.
the area has to happen to impose. And you have this one thing that offers you a lifeline, that gives you friends, that puts you in a room with 4 or 5 other people, and suddenly something magical happens, and that's carried through. That's a cultural phenomenon, and people are saved by that. Literally,
Yes.
metaphorically, emotionally,
Oh
intellectually,
yeah,
whatever it is,
absolutely.
across
Yeah.
the board. And it's important to kind of to have that story told. That it's great that somebody can come along, open a D&D, and just play the game, or watch the movie watch the movie, or go
Yeah.
along to Wembley Arena and see a game being played as part of the audience. I mean, this is, for us, that's like,
That's
Yeah.
mind
back
blowing.
then it was for the birds. But where it is now, it's important to look back where it was then and say, look, we were the six nerds sitting in a room, with
Mhm.
Xerox copies, or pen and paper, and pen and paper maps on square paper. We were those kids, and not to say that oh, we're pioneers or whatever, but just to say that that's where it was, and now look at where it is. And to kind of map that evolution as part of a story is really important, part of our story.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. I tell people now, I'm like, if you want to know what it was like when I was a kid playing D&D with my friends and such, I was like, the opening scene of season 1 of Stranger Things is exactly us. That is us. That could be a picture of us. And it's the best part is that the actors in that scene were basically 13. I think one was maybe 14 or 12. One was off, but the other 3 were 13. And that scene is supposed to take place in 1983. In 1983, I was 13 in a basement playing D&D with
Yep.
4 other friends. It's literally us. So I'm
Yeah,
always
there's
just like,
very
that's
few. There's
exactly
very
what it
few
looks
times it's
like.
been
Yeah.
captured correctly. I think E.T. There's a scene
Mhm.
in E.T.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
accurate.
yeah.
ET was
Yeah.
very spot on.
Yeah.
Freaks and Geeks managed to
Mhm.
catch it.
Yeah.
And there's one other. There's a film. I finally had to buy the DVD of it because I couldn't find it anywhere online. But it's a Scottish movie called Gamers with a Z or a Z at the end. And if you really want to see a very accurate picture, not just of the kids getting together, but what we were saying about just spending that time alone in your room, just drawing the maps and just being in your head. And that film captures that really well.
Mm.
So I would say watch that film too if you can find a
Mm.
copy anywhere.
And on the other side, there's a wonderful mid 1980, I think 1984 documentary, or news story really, where they go out to Games Workshop, and
Oh,
if you
really?
want to escape from reality, terribly English voice, if you want to escape from
Yeah.
reality and try your hand at some strange, you're making your own world, you can go down to your local game store and play a new event called Dungeons and Dragons. And it's like, could you be more patronizing?
Right.
And the questions asked, and the way the kind of, and it's certainly Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson actually giving the
I can
interview from the
imagine right
gamer
now.
side. But it's really kind of like, they're asking questions like so why do you create worlds? Like, well,
Yeah.
really, I mean, you're asking leading questions which back them into a corner,
Right.
throughout the entire thing.
Oh,
Now,
cool. Aiden Walsh says that Gamers was actually shown at GaleCon one year.
well, that's why, absolutely. Oh, Aiden, I do. Aiden is both Aiden and Derek are long time friends, and it's great to see them. Great to see them being
Hi,
relatively
Aiden. Hi,
insomniac.
Derek.
Hey.
But yeah, and even I did a radio interview for News Talk in the late 90s about gaming. And they finished the interview and they immediately start talking about nerds and geeks and like
Yeah.
how only the kind of the disenfranchised or the isolation of society played this game. So they basically had the interview went fine, and then they kind of lambasted the hobby. So and you look at things now like Stranger Things and like D&D, suddenly it's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Suddenly it's wow, it's look at this is amazing, it's cool, and kind of going, and that's an interesting kind of evolution. As I said, the Wembley Arena thing is just crazy. The Critical Role thing. Making
Yeah.
cartoons, making what
Yeah.
the hell is
mean,
happening here? Henry
on
Cavill's
on
40K series next year is gonna be
it's gonna be
meteoric.
huge.
That's
I
gonna be
mean,
good.
Gonna go
on the
nuts.
one hand, yeah, I'm a bit jealous of the kids who grew up with that sort of thing that they have today. But on the other hand, I think they should be a bit jealous because there's a specialness that comes from being in an ostracized hobby,
Right.
Mhm.
you know.
I think it's great though. I think it's great where the hobby is now. I think it's
Yeah.
it's built on such a strong foundation. It's great. I think I was looking at a couple of kids playing the game when I was running my own game today in the store in Rob's store, the Guildhall, and running 5th edition, and the kids were kind of you could see the DM, the house is shaking, and all this kind of stuff, and he's really getting into it. He's playing voice, and I'm kind of going, I think there's
nice.
still magic there. There's still
Yeah,
the
that's
same
great.
magic is still there, and these are kids about maybe 15, 14, 15, and the magic is still there. So I think the wider the hobby goes, I think it's just designed, particularly role-playing games, more so than board games. Board games are kind of are becoming, there's a pivot, I think, away from computer games into a shared
Yeah.
experience.
Seeing that.
Yeah, it's kind of the computer games dominated for so long. Now there's a pivot. I see that in my 14-year-old nephew. There's a pivot. He wants to go out there and play a board game.
Yeah, I
He
guess
wants to
it's
sit with
it's
people.
the pendulum swings, doesn't it?
For sure, absolutely. So I think it's a good time, but I think people are rediscovering the magic that we had. I think the main thing is it's a lot easier to access. It's a lot more affordable. It's a lot more better advertised. You can walk into any shop now, any bookshop, and there'll be a Dungeons and Dragons starter set. So it's
Yeah,
a lot
that's true.
more in your face, and it's a lot more mainstream because they can watch a movie about it. They can
Yeah.
watch Critical Role. They can watch people playing this game. So it's a lot more accessible and a lot less peripheral than it was for us. But I think the magic is still there. I like to think.
And hopefully, the kids who are playing it at this point will be interested in the history of it and want to see the things that are in the museum. And even people who don't have an interest in gaming per se, I do think that the story you're going to be able to tell through MOGI is one that goes beyond gaming because it tells the larger story of the culture around it.
I hope so. I hope to eventually get there. But as I said, the moment of that father explaining to his kid what he played and what it was like, and the fun he had, and the magic he experienced, that to me is kind of the core of it. You're preserving these things for people to have those conversations.
Well, you're gonna love this story. So we're watching, Stranger Things season 5 is coming out. So my daughter and I, big fans. So I think it's awesome that my daughter is like a huge fan of that show, and so we watch it together. So we're rewatching the 4 seasons up to this 5th one.
Cool.
And so we were watching it the other night, and it was the Mind Flayer episode, and they were, Dustin's trying to explain the Mind Flayer to everybody. And he pulls out the monster manual and he opens it up and he points to the Mind Flayer. Well, I get up because we're watching TV in my studio here. I went over and grabbed that monster manual, the original monster manual, opened it up and put it in front of her. I went, there it is right there. And she's like, oh my God, you have that book?
That's
cool. I was like, yes.
So, oh man, that's good. Mine are in the museum. Yeah.
She looks at me, she goes, oh my God, you're that old.
You're that old.
Yep, we are.
Yes,
you were thinking, oh, you're that cool. No, she's like, you're that old.
No,
no, she thought it was cool. No,
I know.
Trust me.
That's cool. That's
she
great.
thought it was cool. It was a really cool moment.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about. It's about kind of connecting generations with those moments.
So, Colm, if folks want to visit the museum, donate objects to the museum, or just help out in any way, what are some things they can do?
It's all on mogi.ie, mogi.ie. At the moment, so selling stuff internationally is a big problem in terms of tax and in terms of tariffs and in terms of all those horrible things at the moment. So what I'm trying to do is set up kind of a funding vehicle, something like a Patreon, where the
Good plan.
merchandise will be rewards rather than sold.
Ooh,
You know,
okay.
I'll also be setting up a donations kind of. There's a weird thing in Ireland where if you set yourself up with a charity, you can't accept donations for about a year.
Which makes sense. I mean, if you
It
think
does.
about
No,
why,
it makes.
it keeps
Yeah,
people
yeah.
from.
I get it. I get it. You know. So I'm looking at options of setting myself as a sole trader rather than a charity, and then pivoting into charity because that's a possibility as well. So, as I
Yeah.
said, it's only been a year. So, but the most important thing people can do now, really, for me, is to log on to the socials. So the Instagram and the Facebook are MOGI_.ie, and start spreading the word about it. I feel that things will happen organically then if the reach of the socials goes to a certain level where something like a Patreon becomes feasible to advertise through the socials. That's really where I'm at now. So it's before I make the big jump into becoming a real boy, if people can just kind of go onto the website, check it out. I mean, like the level of support I got at GaelCon was amazing. People were coming up saying thank you so much for doing this, and that was quite heartwarming. People are coming up saying this is amazing, it's a great idea. So that level of support is always appreciated. But following the socials and promoting the socials and spreading the awareness of the museum at this point in time is as much as I can ask for people until I kind of get the foundation of the company, whatever format that takes, a foundation of the funding model in place, which I'm still kind of not struggling with, but trying to see what the best and fairest and most equitable option is for both the person donating and myself. One of the things I'm very much focused on is the donation form has a part in it which says if the museum stops existing for whatever reason, what do you want done with your donation? So and we'll try our best. Do you want to send to another museum? Do you want to go back to your estate? What do you want done? That's important to me because gamers like stuff.
Yeah.
We like our games. So if somebody is donating to the museum while they're vesting it in the museum, I would like to, as best as possible, if the museum starts ends or for whatever reason, I would like as much as possible to honor their wishes for
Right.
their donation. So that's
Yeah, yeah.
important to me as well. So people are welcome to obviously donate items. I mean, they're always welcome to do that.
Although, of course, our hope and is that the museum will go on and on and on.
For sure, absolutely, and that's certainly the intention. But at the moment, I think the most useful thing people can do for me is to promote the socials and to circulate it and to check out the website because they're on a base crude level they're monetizable, but on a more important level, it's spreading the awareness of that it exists, that it's out there, and what I'm trying to do. And I think that if people can do that at this point, that would be deeply appreciated.
Right.
All right. So folks go to mogi.ie, spread the word in the socials, get the word out there, and if you actually get a chance to physically go, please do.
It's in Killarney, County Kerry, in the southwest of Ireland. Big tourist town, lots of great food places, lots of great bars. And when you guys do come, which I hope you will, I'll certainly show you some of the one strange alternative bar that I've DJ'd in on occasion.
Ooh,
Which
Nice.
it's a hardcore dive bar in some ways, but it's proper 80s goth alternative rock
Nice.
music.
All right.
Good times.
I'm in.
Good times.
And Belgian beer.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
I like Belgian beer.
I love a good Belgian triple.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because unlike Peter, I like good beer.
I like good beer. I like good beer too.
You like grass.
I like all kinds of beer, man.
Life's too short for bad beer, bad whiskey, and bad coffee.
Dude, every time I went to Germany, man, that's all I drank was, double bock Weiss beer, and
I will always give Peter shit for the IPAs. It's only because I'm in the minority because everybody likes IPAs here.
Right.
I'm just
I like all kinds of beer.
It's a big thing. Dude, I mean, when I was over my first Gen Con, some of the guys brought me to an Irish bar just to take the piss, and I was going, "Really, lads? Seriously, bringing me to an Irish bar?" And just watching them pour Guinness was just
painful.
Oh, God. I will say this: it was eye opening for me because having never been to Ireland before, having only had Guinness in the United States, I was like, "What's the big deal?" I
night
love
and day,
stout.
right?
What you have in the Irish state in the States is not Guinness. It's like it's like instant coffee. It's a coffee. It's a Guinness flavored drink. But it ain't Guinness.
I love a good stout, right? I mean, that's mostly what I drink is stout. And so I have Guinness and I'm like, in America, it's weak, it's flavorless, it's nothing. I get to Ireland, I'm like, it's a meal.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
It's so good. I had no idea. So I apologize to the entire
You
Guinness
will
factory.
only get real Guinness in Ireland.
Right.
Yeah,
The
it's
Grave
true.
Diggers. Derek Derek mentioned the pub there called the Grave Diggers. Yeah, that's. I think I'm probably right, Derek, in saying that's probably the best Guinness in Dublin, if not
All
Ireland.
right, Grave Diggers it is.
All right.
What
I'm in.
neighborhood's it in?
It's Dublin. I mean, it's
I don't know.
it's a small city. You
It
could
is.
walk. It's yeah. You could walk.
Yeah, I mean,
like
we were staying in the Liberties, and we could pretty much walk everywhere from there.
right. I mean, like you can drive one end of Ireland to the other end of Ireland in 8 hours.
Yeah.
You know, Dublin's a tiny part of that. You could walk around Dublin in a day.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
far. So
Grave
what
Diggers it
neighborhood?
is.
Dublin. There you go.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
No, it's close
All
enough
right.
to where the con is. So
So we've run pretty long tonight. It's late for you. Thank you so much for staying
Yeah,
up late
thank
with
you.
all of this.
no, thank you for having me. Really appreciate
Can't
it.
wait to see you again in a few months when we're
Look
back.
forward to it.
And everybody, please go to mogi.ie and support the museum.
Thank you very much,
This
guys. Thanks for having me.
This has been Tabletop Weekly number 68. Next week is going to be pretty nice.
Yeah.
And follow us on the places, subscribe to the things, like the stuff, review the things, help us out, all the usual stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody, and good night.